Girl hears cries in trunk. When the trunk was opened, she was traumatized. She choked when she heard screams from a car. The 17-year-old was walking down the street with her dog when she suddenly heard screams. At first, she thought it was nothing serious, but as she got close, the screams and scratching noises got louder. Her dog led her straight to a vehicle that had its trunk locked. Her heart was pounding rapidly, and panic was now shooting through her. Someone was trying to break out from inside and was banging loudly. She quickly dialed 911 out of fear. But what she saw when the trunk was open caught her breath in her throat. 17-year-old Kayla Rose and her parents, Gilbert and Sophie Rose, resided in Irvington, New Jersey. The teen lived a very contented and peaceful existence. She was prepared to graduate from high school and enroll at Ohio University, where she intended to pursue a legal profession, just like any other girl her age. Rose enjoyed following a consistent morning routine. She loved to plan out every task she had to complete each week and never left anything undone. Rose had a daily routine that never changed. But on a random Wednesday, none of her preparations would come to pass, and the girl who detests surprises would end up with something no app could ever prepare for. It all began on a Wednesday, just like any other, with Kayla getting ready and going just as planned. She put Milkshake on a leash and went for a stroll around the neighborhood about 7 in the morning. At that hour the area was almost vacant and all was silent. Kayla noticed an odd noise coming from a black automobile parked on the side of the road when she was strolling along Lindley Street on her way home. She kept going, initially believing she had only dreamt it. She did, however, hear the sound again a moment later, and this time it was much louder and obvious that it was coming from the black automobile. With growing nervousness, the teenager walked cautiously toward it. She could hear the noises clearer as she approached the car. She could hear it coming from the trunk and thought it was a human voice. Someone was imprisoned within the trunk. She was by herself in the middle of the road at 7 in the morning. The young woman was terrified, but she overcame her fear and went up to the trunk, whispering, "Hello, can you hear me?" Shortly after, she heard a voice saying, "Hey, help me, please, help me," coming from the trunk. Her cheeks were flaming, and her heart was pounding rapidly. Kayla realized she needed to take action and she needed to move quickly. Though she had read hundreds of detective books where the protagonist had to solve cases similar to this one, she had never experienced anything like this. "I need to ask for help," she told herself. "I need assistance from someone before the kidnapper comes back." The young woman was breathing deeply and speaking quickly. The neighbor, a 70-year-old lady Kayla had known since childhood, dialed 911. As soon as the young woman informed Rose of what had took place, Rose hurried home to locate her mother, who had not yet left for work, and told her everything. When Kayla and her mother returned to the site a few minutes later, the police and fire services had already shown up. There also was the neighbor who had contacted them, identifying herself as the young lady who had found the entire situation and had sounded the alarm. Kayla was requested to stay by the police in case they had any questions for her about the case. "You, young girl, have shown great bravery. You have plenty to give your mother pride. If someone else had been in your shoes, they would have fled and chosen someone else to take the chance, but you acted appropriately and most likely saved a life." The police inspector in charge of the inquiry commended her, saying, "Not everyone is capable of doing something like that, especially at such a young age." Kayla made the decision to wait as the firefighters unlocked the car's trunk. She was aware that someone was inside and that there was a good chance the hostage taker was seriously hurt. When the trunk opened and she saw what was inside, she was astounded. The man inside the trunk was in his mid-20s, not much older than she was. His entire body was covered with bruises and scrapes, and ropes shackled his wrists. When Kayla spotted that young man within the trunk, she became a bit traumatized. She couldn't get the thought that she may have been the person inside the damaged trunk if she had gone downstairs earlier to walk the dog. Upon observing the man's state in the trunk, the paramedics hurried him to the emergency room. After carefully removing him, they placed him in the ambulance and warmed him while providing the most basic care for his most severe wounds. They then departed for the hospital. The cops pointed to Kayla when the paramedic team leader inquired about who had located the man. Given the low temperatures and the severity of the man's injuries, the paramedic informed her that the man may have perished from hypothermia if she hadn't taken immediate action. His body might not have been able to hold out for very long, and he might have experienced an irreversible cardiac arrest. After being checked over and treated by emergency physicians, the guy was transported by ambulance to the closest hospital, where he stayed for 2 days. Thankfully, the physicians determined that his bruises and scrapes would go away with full rest in a few weeks and that there was no risk to his life. The claimed victim reported to Hillside Police that he was forced into driving to many ATM locations and taking out cash by 2 armed males. He said that after that, he was kept imprisoned within his trunk till the next day. But it would take a lot longer for his mental scars from that horrific experience to heal, and in order for him to fully recover, he would require expert psychiatric therapy. Following the story's publication by local news outlets, little Kayla's incredible deed of bravery became the most talked about news item in the preceding weeks. The television anchor referred to Rose as a hero and said that the man who was locked in the trunk might not have lived if it weren't for the young teen's intervention. Every news outlet accepted that account of events and complimented the youngster on her courageous deed.